This is starting off on Mbani, and then we have Hollywood and Nepal as our maps 2 and 3.
Yeah, so Hollywood and Nepal. We've seen a lot of these maps today, and Numbani though is not one of those that we've been seeing just constantly, time and time again. Let's see what will be happening though, because we do have two mirror comps right near. I believe yes, mirror-ish comps. I believe the difference being a Tracer on our defending team and a Genji on our attacking team. Let's see if that Genji makes something happen though, because it does appear that just going right down the main road is the route of choice. Diving in deep, forcing Zenyatta way back far away. Peregrine will be the price for that dive though. Meanwhile, Hobbs getting Joel is chasing down Claw of Death. Not gonna be surviving that one as Rampage is unable. Excuse me, Hobbs unable to actually hold his high ground. Philippines actually getting a lot more kills as well, cleaning up the point, and it seems as though that staggered push did not quite work as well for the attackers as they'd hoped.
I think the difference in having a Tracer and a Genji was certainly a difference maker there. Voil just didn't have any targets to clean up just yet before when he dove right in, and Zaxel just sat up freely, harassing anyone that was still upstairs left on that split push, as you said. So, and not only that, Zaxel is now crouch walking on the right side, looking for the flank, trying to build some more ult charges, gonna try and go after this Mercy in the back. This is exactly what Zaxel needs to be doing, and just constantly harassing this backline and creating pincer maneuvers, and it's working out well. Very close now to a pulse bomb, while the rest of the team picking up 2. Hero has been demeched on the point, gets right-clicked by Rampage, who is living up to his name, so to speak, and already has his visor ready. So this is perfect for the defense of 200 milligram players. They've done essentially no work, and they've built up almost their entire 6 ultimate stock here. They've just clicked on 2 more. They're sitting at 4. Fluppy and Chuck are about to have theirs, and there's nothing on the offensive side of Voltic as they push in. Ooh, and it looks like Voil and Hero and them, they're jockeying at the point, looking for an opportunity to go in here. And Voil now gonna dive right in, finding Rampage by himself with Flubby. Flubby didn't have anything to help peel with too much there, but as Voil dives in, he was in by himself. He gets melted. Hobbs gets a kill, but no one's there to help. And again, this split push, the problem with this is that the entire split pushing isn't actually playing into what makes dive strong, and that's like throwing your team at those diveable targets and cleaning them up quickly as a team and moving on to the next target. When you start doing the split pushes, you lose your divers as a result because you're not supporting them as you go in, and the numbers end up being even, and the defense just swallows you whole. So,
and this is a very good defensive dive comp as well. The 76 and the Zen, holding a high run. Tracer can easily go back between the 2 fronts that are being formed here to assist whatever side that needs it. The Paragon on the Moira was immediately decided as a horrible idea. They're now going for the Mercy again. Let's see if they make it work out though. Similar so far. This time though, there is still a Zenyatta full beyond the high ground with a trance. Able to keep everyone nice and healthy. And who popping the Primal Rage, slapping around the 2 supports on the low ground, on the high ground. Meanwhile, supports or tanks fighting each other. But the blade from Voil could be what this team needs to finally push in. You just take out Suppose and Harley. So both supports are down, claiming their position on the point. Jolf will have to try, well, I was gonna say try to contest that, but he does not even make it. 2 ticks have now been obtained. Looks like with no tanks to be seen, that will just be the point. 3 minutes left, a shaky start, but eventually able to get away from that split pushing, able to actually fight as a team, and able to really use the Primal Rage, I feel, to CC out the dangerous and or probably harder to contain targets.
Oh, Rampage picking up Hobbs as he tries to get away there. Honestly, Voltic really just lost that fight because they lost their tanks early. So if they can just avoid having that happen again, it's something we saw earlier in winner's bracket, and that made them drop to full send, losing their tanks early in these fights. So this is definitely a theme for them. They need to be able to keep these guys up early and not let them dive in too far and lose things. But now Voltic, either way, still getting the point, and then Voil moving up, getting the DMEC onto Chuck.
Oh man, there's an attempted very sneaky pulse bomb from the rear by Zaxel, but it didn't actually turn anything. Hero immediately threw away the damaged mech and then just got a new one. No kills from Pound with the self-destruct, but still not horrible. Suppose is using that Valkyrie bring back Jolt. They have a lot of work on their plate. So many more kills, but just look at the kill feed. That's way too much for Suppose to bring back. The cart absolutely not going to be stopped anytime soon. Suppose gunned down as well. This cart is going to be moving on close. Now that Voltic are in a place with this much like little places for skirmishes, their aggressive play style is definitely going to be rewarded.
Yeah, for sure, and they've built up some ultimates as well, which will be great. And honestly, I gotta go back to Voil here again. Voil has been a star player this entire set, and probably has the least amount of deaths out of probably his entire team overall. He's just constantly staying alive and has the visor. Oh, unfortunately, popping the visor just as Flubby threw that down, and of course, Chuck just turned right to him to throw the defense matrix down. Hobbs trying to help out, gets the pulse bomb down, but the visor was already depleted before it happened, and the rest of the team is gonna fall apart. Full set 200 milligrams players, they're going to be looking finally better here on defense.
Voil and Hobbs popping those two ults, specifically Voil and Attack Visor. His teammates already died. He kind of knew that he couldn't be able to do it. Oh, as I said, they're fighting Chuck as well. Not having ults in this next push isn't great, but finding a pick is 5v6, and it seems that the 6 will take any day. High ground now being contested. Rampage having to play just ring around the rosy with his Winston, but this one has a laser gun and some very, very strong fists. You know, on the point is just Zaxel, who is contesting the point, trying to stay alive, doing what he can alongside his Mercy. Doing a pretty job of it so far with Chuck backing him up from the rear. Chuck is immediately DMAC, not able to stay alive at all. Hobbs just getting so many last hits, so much damage out for this Tracer, taking them out. The point is going to be captured as well. Minute 50 left for this team to make a final push. But as is with most of these payload delivery maps, the third point is oftentimes the easiest to defend, and this one is no different.
Yeah, there's no way for those flankers to get too much leverage, though. There is the side areas, especially on the right, where the Tracer can kind of flank in there and take cover, so you don't have to commit hard. But we're already seeing the other kind of dynamic part of this map is these high ground areas before the payload gets into these first curves, and we're already seeing players get gutted. Not only upstairs, but then when they fall down onto the payload. And Transcendence now coming down from Claw. That's going to help usher in the rest of the team into this last lane. A Diva Bomb going down as well as the Visor. They're throwing down every ultimate here, but not getting a ton of kills for it despite moving the payload mode. In fact, they've lost in terms of the kill feed. Rez is coming out. Chuck picks up Claw. They burned 3 ultimates for very little distance on this payload, and they have to now win this fight to make it worth. But Flub throwing down yeah, that's going to be a Transcendence to keep the rest of the team alive, hopefully. But actually, he's been pulled from away from the payload, and the deaths are happening on top of it. He needs to get back into position here. Rampage does get re-reds, though, and thrown down a nice right-click onto Hero just as he comes back from the grave. Anhu has the Primal Rage, trying to knock the other monkey away. Flubby still alive, trying to put down these shots with the help of Jolt on the side, and it actually does keep the weight away. The rest of this team, Jolt jumps down, but Hobbs headshots Flubby to keep him down. Chuck, mini missiles, helping Jolt jump into the rest of this and trying to avoid overtime if possible. But Zaxel picking up Hobbs, and that's going to be enough to get rid of the rest of that backline. Let's see how they get into this payload. 10 seconds remaining.
I mean, so many kills from Voltic, but that spawn advantage is a little bit too much to get past Chuck, and Zolf holding pretty on the point. The overtime is now called. Hero getting DMAC'd. Diva Bomb is going to be trying to do anything at all. Chuck will be able to get remac'd, though. We're good there, but look at that. Could be already finding Hero. You're making sure they don't have to be doing anything. The attack visor from Voil is mostly mitigated by a Diva, and his team is reaching a similar fate as him. Hobbs being one of the only ones actually getting damage, and Clawbeth holding pretty on the point with his Zenyatta, but as soon as that trance ends, so does his life. And there it is. That's round 1 of Numbani being cleared, reaching almost the 3rd checkpoint. A pretty beatable placement for Voltic.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Voltic getting that far and not making it to the end there. Now 200 milligrams, don't even have to worry about completing the map, but they've essentially gotten it to the end of the payload marker is pretty much right there at that cul-de-sac, so almost as close as you could possibly get it. But still, it's unfortunate because we won't be getting a round 3 here. This will end on this round. This is it for the Monty tonight, possibly, unless we get it in grand finals. We'll see. Still, though, Voltic, I think they had a really solid push, and then towards the end, they kind of immediately lost steam. As you said, the defense has a little bit of an easier time holding in the last portion of these escort phases of the map, but I think it kind of just came down to the ultimate usage getting kind of sloppy from both of these teams, and neither of them kind of completely capitalizing when they found the opportunities.
Yeah, a lot of times it was just like press Q, question mark, profit.
Yeah.
And well, it does sometimes work that way. If both teams do it, it just turns into this big frantic light show, in which sometimes teams win, but especially if it's the supports that are hitting those buttons and see what happens, then people just don't die. Is what happens if supports just press the Q button. A lot of people just don't die, especially when your two supports are Mercy and Zenyatta. A lot of AOE, high DPS healing is afforded by those two ults. The question is, though, is 200 milligrams players, are they going to make the same mistakes as Voltic and try to go for split pushes? I don't think so. They've been playing a little bit more conservatively as Voltic, but I suppose that isn't exactly an easy benchmark to hit. Not saying good or bad, but Voltic have been playing very, very aggro.
I would say that the Tracer 76 staying on there from 200 milligrams is indicative of them kind of trying to stay together if they can. But in fact, they've actually scattered up quite a bit here. Half the team going through mid, and then the Tracer 76 and Zenyatta upstairs. But they're not completely committing to this push yet until they get a pick, it looks like. And it looks like they're going to try and get it from Rampage, who has the 76. And now finally the dive coming in, but Chuck didn't make it upstairs with Jolf. It was only Jolf that made it up there, and both of them slipped down. And then Zaxel flanking from behind, but the D-Mech comes down onto Chuck. And this dive is getting split up, but Zaxel picks up a kill, but nothing is getting completely confirmed other than that Zaxel kill. And both teams are scrambling, but the defenses too, they're kind of just throwing away a couple of these kills. Hobbs thankfully picking up the slack though, and getting 3, and then finding the rest in that upstairs corridor. And I thought that pincer maneuver, the split push, was going to work out, but I figured with the 76 and the Tracer, they'd want to stay on the same line of sight to make the most out of the characters that they've picked. Instead, they go for the split push, and it doesn't work out.
The split push made a little bit of sense with Rampage and Flubby attempting to take the high ground, and it would have worked too if it weren't for that meddling Hobbs. He was able to come in from the rear, get a lot of damage, and honestly, if Hobbs isn't there, that push probably works. Hobbs is not here this time to ruin the plans of Rampage. Now he has essentially complete control of this high ground, forcing out an ult from that Winston. There is a tick that is obtained on the point. While this is going on, though, the point is being held by the attackers, forcing down quite a few players, the two supports, as well as a tac visor and Boyle. It does end, though, and Flubby has something prepared for that. Is his own tac visor. He's able to clear out the points, get everyone off of it, and complete that capture with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left. Very, very good push. We can definitely see what the strategy was going in by Rampage and Flubby.
Yeah, finally it worked out. They got all their tanks upstairs, and then they had the 76 waiting. And then I love it because, you know, when they have those tanks dive in, Zaxel doesn't have to be with them. Can I just evaluate the situation and then just blinks over through the air onto the other upstairs area and helps flank and get those kills. So things worked out. Now they got a little bit of space on the rest of this push 200 milligram players, but now things have come to a halt. They're diving right in though. Chuck finds Pull of Death. That's a big pickup. And then Anhu, yeah, he has to get res back up from the Valkyrie and Paragon. And here comes a Diva Bomb being dropped out. It's not Hero. It is Chuck throwing it down, and Chuck does not get it. Gets absolutely nothing. And essentially a waste of a Diva Bomb there, as he's going to get melted down as well. His entire team has gone down. And Voltic, I would say that maybe they were feeling bad about not getting the full map completion here, but they're eating up a ton of time, and the payload is continually staying where it has on this defensive hold.
A surprisingly ineffective push coming out there as well. It looked initially quite strong, pushing in without Zaxel right away, but Zaxel not throwing out that pulse, not able to find a kill from that flank, I think is the big reason why that push didn't quite work out. They weren't able to really secure any kills in retreating members. Meanwhile, though, Flubby still trying to harass the back line, but two supports there as a way to its healing to actually get there. Meanwhile, though, Rampage finding Boyle, very good start of this fight. He is trying to be brought back. He actually is brought back right away at Paragon without the Valkyrie suits. Definitely a good way to res that. This man on both sides. Rampage still continuing his rampage, as he is just pretty much uncontested, getting a lot of damage out on the backline with supports. Meanwhile, the front, Chuck and the tanks of the 200 milligram are doing a great job of staying alive, mitigating the damage to their team, and allowing the Zenyatta and the 76 to just simply run around, chuck finishing off a lot of these kills as well. That was a great push from 200 milligram. I'm wondering if Voltic needed to do a little bit more precise target firing there on specific players.
I feel like that definitely translated into a ton of those kills too, and we're seeing the full effects of this dive now. Zach's picking up Hobbs, and they built a bunch of ultis too. He throws down the pulse bomb. Not gonna get any kills on that though, but the payload does come in, and then Anhu has to back up. He has the Discord orb on him, and Claw of Death does get Zach, so he's getting a little too greedy there in the back line, trying to create some room for his team. But that's going to get a res to come out from Suppose, but Suppose putting his body on the line and sacrificing himself for the greater good. But was it worth it, as the rest of his team has now been pushed back towards that second checkpoint area, and the rest of his team is going to get put down. Unfortunately, not worth it, and Voil is going to get those 2 kills, getting himself closer to the next visor.
Was it worth it? The answer is definitely no to that one. That was definitely a very odd res. Just putting yourself right out there in front of an entire firing line, literally. And then that D.Va getting, sacrificed as well for that as they had to retreat. Now Jolf is on the Roadhog. So Roadhog, D.Va being the 2 tanks for this team. Hopefully that Roadhog can get some post. Otherwise, he's not getting too much done here. D.Va playing a bit more laid back comp. Attack fires are coming in. Ooh, the hook coming out onto Hero, but that was a high health D.Va. Not much obtained from that one. Just forcing her to use that shift to get away, and it is pick right now, but a lot of those picks for our attacking team have been these supports. They cannot exactly keep this push going without healing. D.Va, Hero once again getting hooked, but that is a very high health D.Va, and while they're getting hooked, the rest of their team is just cleaning house. Jolf not making this Roadhog work that well at all.
Yeah, they may want to rethink that too. You're right. They're losing supports early. They don't have any shielding. There's no Winston bubble, and now they've foregone some of the dive compositions of their team. They're slowly moving away from that. And Jolf does get a kill onto Paragon. That should cue the rest of the team to go in, but he throws down his ultimate instead. That's going to help D-Mech Hero and now push in for more as Anbu finds Chuck and D-Mechs him. Oh, Flubby trying to save Chuck with the Transcends, can't get there in time, but the res is going to come out from Suppose. This payload is going to move forward as the entirety of the blue team has completely routed the defense back towards their spawn.
Very, very interesting trance from Flubby. Not able to see the teammate, but the Res is able to. Meanwhile, Hero getting immediately demeched, and now a primal raging Anu forced to use it to get on the point quickly and force everyone out and around. The Valkyrie suit from Suppose is around, and despite Hobbs getting the full bomb, it is immediately mitigated by Suppose's Res. Holding this point with it at the comp, this Kanki is exactly what it is. And that is what we were shown. 200 milligram winning Numbani.
200 milligram players, not only that. They're the players of 200 milligram. It's all good because they do pick up the win, and that's really what matters. Here's Flubby with the play of the game. And I'm interested to see what this is. I feel like... Okay. Great. I don't really have anything good to say to that. So I think that play of the game.
Beautiful play to scare the Winston off the edge of the map. And nothing scarier than a lone Zenyatta, you know?
Nothing scarier than a late tournament with no sleep for sure. And Anu's definitely feeling the effects of that. We're now moving on to our second map of this losers final set. I believe it is going to be Hollywood, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not, so that's good. Awesome. Yep. Yeah, map 2 for Hollywood. 200 milligrams. They've been waiting in losers finals, and they're trying to make the most of it. Now up 1-0 against Voltic, and we saw they didn't need to completely finish the map there. They switched over to the Roadhog, and once they kept their supports alive, they kept the Roadhog alive, who was able to get these really quick burst kills, much more sustained. I was a little worried that without the Winston, it may have been a problem, but they saw better than I did, and I liked it too, because you saw the first kill that he got once they had their supports back in was the Mercy. That's huge. That the Winston and the D.Va may not be able to get the Mercy down very easily. You have to, rely on your Tracer or your Genji to do that. But Roadhog, he's a tank that can do that. Probably the best tank at killing Mercy, essentially. So he saw the Mercy, got the quick kill, and I know you love seeing that, Roadhog player yourself. Yeah. And that was the big swing right there. Once they got the Mercy down, there were no reses coming out, and they were able to push the payload in.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. realizing that you don't really need to Ryan this last part. There's a lot of like little angles you can really push at it, but as well, a lot of those retreat angles that he was trying to pressure. Like we saw a lot of times he was hooking divas off of high ground, and if any of those hooks that he got in those condensed little doorways was not a diva, they would be insanely good. And eventually it did work out a little bit for him. A little bit of a shaky start, but I'm glad that we were seeing Roadhog once again used to success in the competitive setting. However, this is the next round. We do also have a palette swap. Voltic in the blue, awesome. 200 milligram players in the red, and which means that with the blue team being on defense first, we're going to be seeing Paragon on the Moira. I wonder if this is going to be successful. I feel like it's much more successful against enemy comps that have Lucio's because it implies a heavier, deeper dive. What do you think about that?
No, I definitely agree. I feel like, especially because you want to... well, I guess with Lucio, sure, you want to have that for the dive and it gets you the extra mobility, but once they get out of your range, he's kind of out for loss. I feel like with the Zenyatta, you can definitely continue helping once they dive in, but that's the problem, is that both Zenyatta and Moira, they can't go in with the dive safely. Moira can phase in, but once she's used that cooldown, she can't get out. She has to use that to, you have to commit one way or the other. So it'll be interesting to see against the dive, though. I think it'll definitely work out in terms of dealing with it on the defensive strat. But yeah, having the Lucio on defense, I think, would be really solid, because you know the dive's going to come to you.
All right, all both supports immediately taken down on the side of Voltic. They have very little option here besides to fight and kill as fast as they can. Here, getting gunned down on the point, contesting as long as they can. They will not be surviving, just getting picked off one by one by this Zenyatta 76 Tracer combo. A very powerful set of heroes set up. Anhu is here, not quite able to catch that first tick, but not able to do much more as he does immediately die. Now, they're just staggering one by one onto this point. Paragon, no, there's not much they can do, just crouch walking around. And that was a very quick initial cap. It seemed as though Paragon on the Moira, if you're not going up against full dive, like the Genji, the Lucio, the full works, it does not work out well at all. Even now, the high ground being obtained by 200 milligrams by our attackers. They're doing a great job denying this area. And last time we saw this, that cart did not stop moving for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I was always tested on that Moira pick. I still think she's really much better just for going for deathball comps, and they were kind of like shades of deathball and dive on that defensive hold there, and they didn't really commit to either one. That's where they kind of fell apart, and they've already switched off the Moira back over to Mercy. Voil is sitting on a visor though, so that's not terrible, but Rampage has their own, and Jolf has a Primal Rage, and Flubby will also have a Transcendent soon as well, I suppose, on the Valkyrie. So there's still a lot to work with here in terms of the attack, and they've also gotten a bunch of area here. Rampage throws down that visor and also helps Hero get demeched, and the defense is just scrambling. When every single one of these ults got popped, they weren't even ready for it. They weren't near cover. They weren't clumped up. They were kind of just trying to figure out where to go. They weren't sure if they should commit to the payload or watch for the drop from the roof, and they didn't really do either, and they got slaughtered as a result.
That end of Numbani is appearing to be affecting Voltic a little bit here. They're not as aggressive. They're not playing to the supposed strengths we've seen before. Even now, Zax will take on Anhu in a contest that was not at all together. Now the remaining players that are ready to ambush are just kind of swarming around the point, but it's just like some flies. Like you just swat them away and they're dead. That's exactly what this push was. All these they only get to kill Flubby, who is immediately revived. Even you can put the up the excuse of or idea of a dry push, but just looking at the ults, even that is relatively balanced. Voltic is getting their butts handed to him right now.
I think it's the lack of sleep right now. This tournament is certainly a test of endurance, and it seems like 200 milligram players have the stuff. Yeah, and Voil picking up Suppose, that's a big kill, and that should actually sway things for the defense. You're already seeing it go on the kill feed. They're not going to be any reses coming out, and it seems like the offense has kind of fallen back here, and it's only going to be Zaxel that's going to be cleaned up eventually, unless he gets out. Nope, he has a Discord on him, and the Winston plus the right-click combo from Voil will be enough to silence him. But still, 4 minutes and 20 seconds just about left on the clock here for this offensive push for 200 milligrams 200 milligrams in the red here. Voltic getting a little bit of breathing room, but they haven't been able to avoid themselves too much time or space. We still have Jolf harassing in the backline and actually picks up the kill on Paragon again. These Mercies going down super early in these fights are certainly going to be the deciding factor as they end.
Now Suppose is there with the Valkyrie suit. I would say for a revive, some very little kills. Rampage does go down eventually, actually. Suppose is there with the revive, getting zapped out a little bit by Anhu, but that Valkyrie suit can essentially out-heal the DPS of the Tesla cannon. Winston can't do much about that on his own. The Valkyrie does end, but the advantage gained from it lives on as Paragon able to revive Anhu. That is the only bright side for the defense right here, as they are just dying like flies left and right. Anhu can get it out of the sky. There was only a 76 and Zengata in the back line. One of those two dying on the way back to spawn. Pulls from almost finding the second out, so waiting for respawns, doing a pretty good job of keeping these guys in the cart. Hobbs, who is contesting, does now die as well, leaving the remaining divers to go back toward the spawn door. That means that the supports are left behind. They're going to get back soon, or else they're going to lose them. Hero is DMAX killed as well. They are able to save the supports. The cart is continuing on. No one around for a contest except for a Hobbs, who's swooping at just the right time, but it was just for a second. 3 minutes and 5 seconds gained by this incredible push from 200 milligram players.
Yeah, Voltic has been absolutely slumped against the wall here by 200 milligrams, and I'm very curious to see what they break out with here, because this could be a full point A hold from 200 milligrams. And I was about to say, I said earlier, we might not see any more Doomfist tonight. I think the team's had enough of them. But in a last-ditch effort, Voltic bringing him back into the fray. It's Voil jumping on this Doomfist, and I think that might be the crux of trying to just dislodge the defense on a very, very quick point A push and rush here, which I'm expecting from Voltic.
Well, the thing is that that's pretty good for finding squishy targets, but when you're running Roadhog or Orisa, there ain't too many squishy targets, especially with the guys as big as Doomfist. Once you, if Roadhog knows their way around a Doomfist cooldowns, then he is not the hardest target in the world to hook.
Yeah.
So if the defenders do indeed decide to go for this, which I don't see any swaps, it does look like they will be using this strategy. Number one, the Orisa shields will be very hard to break because of the lack of a 76, and number two, Roadhog not horrible against Doomfists. I'm a little bit worried for Voltic here.
Yeah, and there's even a difference between having the Orisa and having a Reinhardt. Not only because Orisa, has the anti-crowd control, but she has the playable shields, on cooldown. So that makes it a little easier dealing with the more mobile offensive comp that you're going into. Whereas Reinhardt, more static, in terms of he just can't move as well. But not only that, he can't just keep deploying shields. It's a lot harder for him against Dive to keep the shield up. He constantly has to be dealing with his shield economy. But not only that, a very big pulse bomb target. Orisa is too, but we'll see if they can even get a pulse bomb close to her, because we're gonna have Roadhog waiting for them. This is, of course, their last offensive attempt here for Voltic. They have to make things happen. They have to at least get this point A, or they'll be their tournament lives will be cut short. We'll see what they break out with.
All right, defense holding out a little bit forward, just trying to milk whatever charge they can get, which will not be much. Rampage almost going down, which signals the push. Oh, and actually getting Rampage right away after this heal storm gets hit. Definitely a very good start. Rampage going down. I don't care how good your comp is. 5v6 is not a good way to start any fight. Jolt getting focused down as well. The dive doing exactly what it has to do, focusing down a couple of those weaker players. The hook does go to Chuck, finding out Claw of Death, but his friends, Chuck's friends are all dead. Chuck's alone in the world right now. He's got a couple of friends on point, but they're getting chased down, getting gunned down 1-1. Zaxel finding Paragon. Chuck actually killing Hero's mech and Voil. This might be a start of a bit of a defense, and killing Hero as well. Chuck playing insanely well, practically just winning scattered 1v1s and keeping his team's life on the line here.
If you were to say that,
that's not favoritism.
Yeah, if you were going to say that 200 milligrams is going to end up holding that, I would not believe you. But they were able to still figure it out despite losing Rampage very, very early, and then Jolf as well. And then Jolf with a very smart switch, realizing that they barely got through there, and the Orisa's not going to work, so we switch over to the Winston. But here comes that Doomfist jumping right in, trying to get in, and Anhu again picking off Rampage early. Let's see if they can swing things in their favor. Anhu gets another one. The Roadhog gets the hook, and then the grinder coming out. That's Chuck doing so, but no kills. That's Anhu and Voil converting on every single thing. And now the offense picking up a ton of speed here, and leaving them in their wake is Voltic. 200 milligrams now, getting a little bodied here.
Yeah, Rampage needs to wake up. He needs to do whatever he was doing in the previous games, because what he's doing right now is dying early and literally nothing else. At the very least, his attack visor had no chance to use it. So if he gets to this high ground, he'll be a pretty big force to be reckoned with. But there is, once again, a pretty big dive comp coming up here. Doomfist, Diva, Winston, all these guys can get up to this high ground relatively easily. Question is that will they be able to contest this long-range loadout? Suppose now going out with the Valkyrie suit right away. They're trying to make sure they don't lose this high ground position, but it's actually going down now. There's not a way to lose, and during the Valkyrie, 2 players die, but suppose is there to bring him right on back, and Flubby finding Boyle after that. Good start, trance being used by Flubby after the Valkyrie suit ends, keeping his teammates alive. We're now pushing very deep into the enemy spawn, finding Paragon, trying to figure out foil as well. Zaxxer going way too deep, though. We'll be getting punished for that, but it does look like, despite that one small flub, that it is going to be 200mg players win on this fight.
Despite Rampage going down early again, still manages to get back into the fight while it's still in duration, and then clean up those kills. And the tank line making things a little easier for the rest. Interesting. Okay, so Jolfe, in response, charged into the back line of the other team to try and eat some time, realizing that Anhu pushes up, uses his Primal Rage, but now has to get back out. Chuck almost getting demucked here by Anhu. Anhu trying to dive in farther. Hero finds the Mercy upstairs, but Chuck is right on his tail, and now he's getting cornered in this back alleyway. Needs to get out in time. The missiles are just chasing after Hero. He finally gets the mech, has to pop the Diva Bomb. He wants to get that mech back in as quick as possible so he can have a presence onto the payload, but a responding Diva Bomb coming out here from Hero. That doesn't land on any, I'm sorry, from Chuck. That doesn't land on anybody Hero either. The payload now finally coming to a hold as the offense getting kills, but then separating, chasing too hard, and the defense just sucks him right up.
A lot of times the Mercy isn't able to get out as well. As I saw Suppose die there a little bit early, but they have been able to stabilize somewhat here, winning at least pushing back those for now. It's not the best spot to be in, but it's not the worst spot either. Rampage still sitting pretty on that tap rise, though. He's had it for quite a while now. While we're using it soon, this is exactly the spot he'll want to be in for now, as teams are already below him as well. We're in a pretty good spot here, but it's going to be a battle on the rooftops as everyone does now make it up here. There's a very, very powerful looking Boyle who has got the nano, he's got the tack visor, then he's finally going to be getting some kills with it. Taking down Suppose, helping with Jolf and Chuck. Rampage now getting chased down by Anhu as well. Very, very good push right there by Voyle, but Rampage dying again early, still has the tack visor. He needs to use it at some point.
Yeah, he's been sitting on that for absolutely forever. Not sure why he's taking so long to use it. That was also unfortunate by Chuck. He actually dragged Voyle, who was using his visor, towards the rest of his team and helped clean them up, so that was unfortunate. Claude now throwing down this Transcendence, and it's actually double trans as Flubby threw down his as well. But if the kill feed is going blue, a big anti-heal there, then Claw of Death and Hero. Now they're chasing as they find Chuck upstairs, helping out Paragon, who's trying to get cleaned up by Chuck. He gets put down. Man. And this is not over yet, Seal.
That would have been a much better contest, but Flubby's teammates that he was trying to heal, specifically Suppose, and I think it was Chuck at the end there, were anti-healed and left the trance unable to actually heal them. Pretty much entirely mitigated Flubby's ult, which was meant to be a stagger ult, and absolutely made it so that he couldn't do anything there. That being said, look at the times. There's still an advantage being held here by 200mg players, but if the map completes, they're still going to have to go to the overtime rounds. And definitely after a round as strong as that, you wouldn't expect, after a 3-minute win, for the game to, well, honestly complete for the other team.
Yeah, 2 minutes on the board here. A couple ultimates to work with. Paragon and Hero close to theirs, though. Claw of Death is down. Can't be building that trans. That's unfortunate. They need to keep Claw of Death up as soon. Oh, no, that's a poor stagger there. Paragon and getting right-click. That's going to delay this fight even further, but I guess they're just waiting for the ultimates to get online anyway. They have Jolfe getting forward up a little bit here as Hero is in their face, trying to build a little more room for the team. Anhu now pressuring. Here comes a Valkyrie to get the res up on the Chulk, who gets pulse bombed. Not sure if it was necessary to use the Valkyrie to do so.
Well, they're not getting any heroes. Suppose getting shot out of the sky by attack visoring Voyle, who's doing a lot of damage. And something to note during all of this, I would like to direct you to the 76 on defense, who still has attack visor.
Is he playing? He's playing, right? He's in the game. Yeah, he's in. Oh, finally, there it is. There's the visor, but he gets melted immediately. No.
Definitely. Oh, no one actually contested the point. Oh, goodness. 200 milligram players. It almost felt like for a lot of that after the initial hold that they were almost like asleep at the keyboard, man. Like they just
They might be.
they might be. There were no staggers, like there was no initiation from them at all. There was that one time where they were able to stagger Paragon, which is pretty good. They won that one fight and pushed him back, but after that, just getting absolutely wrecked. It's almost like they're not even taking Voltic seriously here, and in some ways it makes a little bit of sense. They do have a significant advantage here, but if they take that mindset into this round. 3 minutes is an infinite time, and with that kind of win, with that kind of snowball, Voltic having a minute here, you can get pretty far off a minute if the first push caps the point. I'm a little worried for 200 milligram players right now if they keep playing like that.
At this point, I think both of these teams are running on fumes, so I'm not surprised that
grand finals.
And they, whoo, lad, absolutely. We'll see if we even make that far. We have 1 minute and 4 seconds on the clock here for Voltic. 200 milligrams. They're chilling for just the moment, though. It's up to Voltic. They have 1 minute and 4 seconds to try and get something going with this push here, and try. And again, they are. If they don't do this, this will go to a map 3. So it's a big opportunity here for 200 milligrams to avoid that.
Diva and Zaxel definitely spot out right away. They try to dive under after spotting them, but they're able to get away. So Defender's not losing anyone right away, but the high ground positioning is gained here by Voltic. As Voil holding high ground with the 76, not going in too deep, waiting for push. No one actually holding the high ground building, just holding in and around the point, leaving an unclear diving spot. And Hero diving at the wrong spot, getting immediately demaxed, taking a little bit too long as Voltic to actually find a spot to go to. They didn't know where to go because the defenders weren't holding on that high ground. Chuck is eventually demaxed, but they have lost a lot of players. The only ones left are a couple of DPS and support on the high ground, which are immediately pushed and gunned down before they can even get away. Flubby is putting up a little bit of a fight here, doing what he can, but after all that, he's left with just Trant on the point.
Is that gonna get a kill? I'm not entirely sure on who. Trying to pick up this Mercy, but Voil helps him out. Now it's just Flubby by themselves. Does pick up Voil, but then drops down. Is likely to get murdered there. Definitely does by the Rampaging Monkey, though he was chilled out at that point. He just used the Tesla gun. Zaxel, big kill on the Claudette, and now the res coming up onto Voil. And it looks like Voltic, they're still not done here. They want this the cap, but Rampage using the visor, not waiting too long there, but Voil already had his down and picks up 2. The Valkyrie coming down, picking up the double res from Rampage and Chuck. That could be enough, but Chuck gets the mech down. No one kills him. No one's there to pick him up, and no one's on the point either. 200 milligrams are somehow able to hold, and now all they have to do is get 1 tick on point A to take this set. Oh man, Voltic had it. They were close.
What a weird push.
Very weird.
This is like what a weird minute. What a weird overtime right there. Overtime is where magical things happen, both amazing, incredulous, but also just strange, and that's what that was. 3 minutes now is 3 minutes and 5 seconds is the amount of time that is held by our attacking team, by the 200 milligram players. With 3 minutes, they can do a lot. They can, sit around, they can get all their ults, they can wait for every single one, not push until they got them all. They can just make a ton of aggressive push. They can probably even meme a little bit if they wanted to. You don't have to get the whole point, only about 2/3 of it. Hopefully, though, they play it well, because they were a little shaky in that previous round. Not the hold, but when the times were established.
Yeah, for sure. I think both teams were fighting for dear life for as much time as possible, but kind of losing track of many different factors in a fight, like just the positioning and using your ults and not sitting on them for the entire time. But either way, 200 milligrams, yeah, they barely have to get a second tick here. They have 3 minutes to do it. I don't think they're gonna meme on them, but I was interested to see if one of them would stay on the Widowmaker for a quick pick, but also for scouting. But I think they figured that they're not going up against a Junkrat or a Torb or an Orisa or anything like that, or another Doomfist from Voil. They realize that things are going to stay standard. It all comes down to execution now. Which team can push out with the best skill and the best point picks here? And it looks like it's going to be Rampage upstairs again, looking for this first pick, throwing down a right click, just barely missing that backline of the supports. And Jolthe going a huge dive into the backline, and Suppose goes down first, not landing on the common target, landing awkwardly on the roof, and then Chuck gets demeched, and the kills are coming for the defense.
Yeah, that was not a great dive in right there, but we're seeing a lot more situations with more 76s, less Genjis, which makes these dives just a little bit harder to do. Probably getting down as well a little bit late in that fight. 1 minute already used up by 200 milligram players. They do have a little bit of ult charge to show for it. Most of their players sitting at 50% or above on the ult charts. But I'm looking at Paragon, I'm looking at Hobbs right now. Those are some people that can definitely change the way this fight's going, especially if Paragon gets the Valkyrie suit when Suppose cannot have it or is dead. However, here is the dive going in right here. Jolf and Chuck going in very, very deep. Trying to get the kills. They do find Paragon and Boyle. Both those went down right away. Meanwhile, the tank's still fighting on the other side of the door, doing a lot of damage. They're eventually clean.
Oh, Suppose!
Stuck.
Suppose gets the res and then doesn't get cleaned up by Hobbs. Hobbs is right there and didn't get the kill, and then Rampage, because he gets re-resed, or got res, got the visor, picks up 3. That's huge.
Game-winning revive.
And that's it. 200 milligrams will be taking this set, 200 milligram players that is, taking this set 2-0. First to win on Hollywood, and then first to win onto Nambani, that is, and then a second win onto Hollywood. No Nepal needed. And it is Voil, even though they didn't win still, oh no, even though they did win, this is the MVP. I think he's been the MVP of this entire team for this whole tournament. Look at this. What is the sends on this guy? Holy crap. You seen that? Holy crap.
Some people like I said, man. Some people.
Oh, well.